Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Swear Word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the Chilihead community, by the Chilihead community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Man, we have an amazing episode here tonight. We have two sauces on deck for Hot or Not. We have an amazing guest, and we have a very fun game, Locked and Loaded. Episode 69 starts now. Welcome on in, Swear Nation. So glad to have everyone here. Hey, if this is your first time checking out the show, thank you so much for being here. This is the place that you can check in for brand new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday night, covering everything to do from the world of hot. So, hey, we have an amazing episode here tonight. So go ahead and share this around with other like-minded chili heads. We're trying to grow the channel here, tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being here. We have two sauces on deck for Hot or Not tonight from Poor Vida, a Dallas-Fort Worth-based hot sauce company, as well as we have Colin Roy from Poor Vida as our guest tonight. And of course, we brought back the five. Let everyone know if you would have changed something as the game is played. More to come on that, but let's go ahead and jump on over to Hot or Not. Hey, welcome on into Hot or Not. We have two sauces on deck tonight. These are both from Poor Vida. This is a local to the DFW area hot sauce company. I am thrilled to have here tonight. We have the cherry limeade and we have pomegranate ghost. So looking forward to jumping into both of these. As you can see here, very nice visual appeal, visual pop on the labeling here, eye-grabbing. I like the skulls, the imagery, everything that's going on here. It blends very nicely. A nice color to the sauces as well. If this is first time checking out, I do things a bit different. I don't like to read the ingredients ahead of time. I like to let my taste buds do that exploration for me, as well as, I do things in a manner that I don't do a 1 to 10. I do a 1 out of 5. Those are based off of 5 different categories. Those categories are heat, aroma, flavor, versatility, and burn. And from that, I add them up, get the total swear word rating off of that average. So let's go ahead and crack into cherry limeade. Give it a good shake. Love the color to this sauce. It's got a nice green color as a whole, so a nice verde look to the sauce. With a name like cherry limeade, this one is got to be, a very nice pop. I'm assuming we're going to be tasting some cherries, and I'm assuming we're going to get some citrus going on here. So looking forward to this. For all of those that are keeping track and interested, this is a perforated cellophane seal, but I like a good excuse to use my knife, so we will go ahead and do that. Get that cut off and out of the way. Grab my spoon, and here we go. All right, cherry limeade from Poor Vida. Oh wow, right off the bat, you're picking up a nice earthy note, a nice jalapeno note on the nose. A little bit of the citrus, a little bit of a sweet note. Smells savory, smells amazing. I'm looking forward to this. Let's go. Nice pour, medium to high consistency on this sauce. The flow rate is very nice. No flow restrictor. And overall looks pretty smooth. Very small bits in there. So you can see some seasoning and some pulp from possibly the peppers or something else ingredient-wise. But all in all, loving the pour. Let's go. Right off the bat. I mean, you're tasting the cherry, you're tasting onion, you're tasting jalapeno, possibly serrano. A nice overall blend of just very nice kiss of sweet, a load of savory, and a flavored transition all throughout. Now, as we're talking right here, I am now having the savory notes kind of fade back just a little bit. They're still there, but now the cherry and the sweet nature to this is really coming forward. That citrus crisp note is also carrying forward, and it is singing true to its name. Cherry limeade, absolutely amazing sauce right here. I can only picture how amazing this is going to go on tacos, burgers, pizza, you name it. I'm also thinking that this would be pretty nice mixed up in a cocktail. So, if that's your thing, this is definitely going to be one to bring that forward. I could see this potentially also going pretty good as a mixture into, say, like a coleslaw. That kind of fresh citrus pop that comes forward, that nice sweet note carrying forward as well. And I'm just salivating like crazy. This is a phenomenal sauce. Let's talk about heat. Overall heat on this, I like to grade as that first, 0 to max 30 seconds. Heat on this, very reasonable. If you're just starting out, this is one you're going to be able to enjoy. You're going to be able to lather up and have a great time. You'll definitely notice that it has some heat if you're just starting out. If you are constantly pushing yourself, you're raising your tolerance, on a consistent basis to your own personal levels. You'll probably see this as a nice mild sauce, but flavor is absolutely singing on this one. And as I mentioned, the versatility options on this are pretty remarkable. With the notes there, I'm trying to think through dessert-wise if this could kind of line up with anything. Possibly on some ice cream, but I don't know. It might not fully mesh with that. Now on a cup of shaved ice, yeah, I'm adding this to a cup of shaved ice. So we will check the box as a possible dessert additive option. That's got to be pretty amazing on there. But let's talk about the burn on this sauce. So overall, burn is kind of that's past that 30-second point. It's where it sits, how it sits. Does it build? Does it migrate around the mouth? All the things. So on this one, the heat, as I said, you'll definitely notice it if you're just starting out. Be definitely safe for you, and it's going to be ringing very true to that same note on the burn. The burn really starts to just really kind of level out, and it's a very slow taper away, but it is still tapering away in the overall impact of that initial, as to where that initial heat was. So, definitely one that you're going to be able to use and use very, very freely to not hurt yourself. Once again, if you're pushing your tolerance, it's going to be a nice mild sauce for you. Flavor bomb, nice verde, unique approach to a verde sauce that is definitely refreshing to see. I bet you that's also going to be amazing using that as a base to a salad dressing. Oh my goodness. Oh, summer salad with that. Loving the overall flavor and body that this sauce brings. So let's put the lid back on this one here. It also has a very unique vinegar taste as well. It does have, I don't know if that's the flavors of the fruit and the vinegar mixing together, or if there's something else going on there. It is not an overpowering vinegar note by any means. So if that's something that scares you away typically from a hot sauce, this is not. It is a nice subtle accent to the sauce that really kind of makes everything just mesh beautifully. But let's go ahead and read off some ingredients here. So we have white wine vinegar, fresh serrano peppers, water, jalapeno peppers, lime juice, olive oil, wild cherry balsamic vinegar. There we go. That is that unique vinegar note that I was kind of picking up. And conveniently, I mean, I've never heard of this type of balsamic, but it definitely is an interesting one that is able to be spotted through this sauce with that cherry balsamic vinegar. Absolutely love it. So then we have tart cherry juice, sugar, garlic, fresh cilantro, cherry wood smoked sea salt, and then we have seasoned pepper and xanthan gum. Absolutely love what's going on in the cherry limeade sauce. Absolutely love what's going on in the cherry limeade hot sauce from Poor Vida. An amazing one at that. Let's go ahead and read off these here scores. So we have heat coming in at 2.2, aroma of 4.13, flavor of 4.3, a versatility of 4.1, and a burn of 2.22 for a total swear word rating of 3.37. There we go. Another amazing sauce. This one is from Poor Vida, cherry limeade. I'll have the links for it down below. All right, so pomegranate ghost from Poor Vida. Let's go ahead and give this one a good shake. Looks like a nice deep red color, dark deep red to this sauce. You do see some seeds, some more parts going in there. This also looks like a nice medium consistency sauce. You have, pretty nice flow the second that the neck of the bottle is, out of question and that air bubble moves out of there. It just starts to really flow nicely. We have also, once again, this does have the perforations on the cellophane, but let's go ahead and get that cut and out of the way. Here we go. Give it a good shake. This is Pomegranate Ghost from Poor Vida. It does have a flow restrictor, so let me get that out of the way. No harm, no foul. Some people love them. I just like the sake of the poor. So here we go. Very nice overall flow to this. You're seeing the seeds and the pepper bits throughout the sauce. Nice, healthy tablespoon. And cheers. Oh, wow. Before I get into that, overall aroma is phenomenal. Sweet, a little bit of vinegar, nice pepper pop. Definitely interested in checking this one out. Right off the bat, pomegranate, very nice body carrying forward. And then as you're getting all that nice flavor, man, I'm salivating like crazy. This is absolutely a tasty one. You're getting that great pomegranate taste, and then a little bit of the sweetness from the pomegranate comes forward. And then you're feeling the texture from the seeds and the other bits that are in there, the seasoning, etc. All in all, phenomenal flavor. And then as that's carrying forward, then it starts to hand off to the pepper in this sauce. And it really hands off that, and you're getting that nice ghost pepper taste. And anyone that, has been in the community for a while, familiar with peppers and the way that they burn, a ghost pepper is not always one to just jump out and punch you in the face right away. It is a slow build. So the initial heat on this sauce is definitely noticeable that there's a hot pepper inside of it, but it does not taper away as the burn starts to kick in. So that initial heat, very nice. If you're just starting out, probably going to be a little bit too hot for you, maybe in moderation, maybe worked into something, like working it into a salad dressing where you're kind of cutting it, or working it into a dish where you can add a little bit and mix it on in, say like a soup, a stew, etc. Or just a little bit on your tacos or burger, to really kind of get accustomed to it and really building up from there. Now, if you are constantly pushing your tolerance, you're constantly working on building your own personal best, this is going to be a nice medium sauce for you, medium to high, depending on where you're at. All in all, loads of flavor, very well executed. You have a nice, like I said, nice fruity body that comes in, kisses of sweetness, and then that as that sweetness starts to come in, It is also greeted with that ghost pepper taste and that ghost pepper heat. And then on the finish, you get a nice savory complexity to it all. All in all, phenomenal. This is one that I could definitely see myself using on quite a few different dishes. As I had mentioned just a second ago, probably, I don't know, maybe I could see myself also working this into, say, a dessert, but I could truly see this one singing pretty well in mixed with a drink, whether that be a lemonade or, you know, an adult beverage as a whole, kind of working that in there, playing, you know, very nicely with the pomegranate and the ghost pepper to really bring that flavor forward. Love what's going on here with pomegranate ghost from Poor Vida. Let's do this. Let's talk about the heat, or let's talk about the burn, actually. So as I had mentioned, when the heat comes on, it initially hits the gums, the front of the mouth, and etc. As that really starts to transition into the burn, it still lingers just ever so slightly on the lips, but it kind of fades away pretty quickly from the gums, gravitates more towards the middle of the mouth / back of the mouth. And from there, it really just latches onto the back of the throat and it just sits. Feeling nothing in the chest, nothing in the stomach, but all in all, phenomenal flavor, phenomenal burn. And, you know, if you are constantly pushing yourself, this is going to be a great sauce for you to pick up and really go to town on and use and just enjoy because, like I said, packed full of flavor and a very nice heat. So let's do this. Let's read off some ingredients actually real quick. So for pomegranate ghost, we have ingredients of white wine vinegar, guajillo pepper, water, ghost peppers, fresh pomegranate, olive oil, lime juice, garlic, sea salt, cherrywood smoked sea salt. And then we have seasoned pepper. And then we have brown sugar, cayenne, and xanthan gum. Very well executed. That nice savory finish is definitely coming through on the garlic and the overall, just the depth to these different seasonings, whether it be the smoked salt or the seasoned pepper, and really letting that kind of come forward. That brown sugar and cayenne is kind of what that in-between transitory step where it goes from that great pomegranate body carrying over into that ghost pepper nature. Man, absolutely love it. All right, let's go ahead and read off these scores here for Pomegranate Ghost from Poor Vida. We have the heat coming in at 3.68, aroma of a 4, flavor of a 4.23, versatility of 4.1, burn of 4.05 for a total swear word rating of 4.01. Man, absolutely amazing sauce. One that you'd be able to enjoy in multiple different ways and really spice up, whether that be a beverage, your food, or your dessert. I will have the direct links for it down below, as well as the main link to the website. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the interview. Hey, Colin, how's it going?
Hey, man. Doing good. How are you doing?
Man, I am doing good. You know, absolutely thrilled to have you in here. We had the pleasure of meeting at North Texas Hot Sauce Fest. And man, you know, really excited to be able to dive in and check out more of your products and, you know, learn a lot more about Poor Vida.
Sure. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, you know, one fun thing I always start out with is really gaining an understanding of what got you into the world of spice, and then what was that moment that catapulted you into starting to make your own products?
Sure. So, I've always made my own salsa. That's just like been a thing I've been doing for probably 20 years. Um, During COVID, me and my wife started getting into gardening, and I built a couple of raised beds. and we had a record year one year right in the middle of all of that, and I had more peppers than I knew what to do with, and so I really just decided to figure out what to do with it, and I googled how to make hot sauce, and the first thing that came up was obviously Tabasco, and so I kind of dove into the vinegar based hot sauces because Tabasco, I mean, everybody hates on it. I love Tabasco, and I can't say everybody. Not everybody hates on it. It is a classic, but a lot of the craft sauce world is not vinegar based sauces, and really I mean, that was my starting point. So I did not ferment, but I just tried to figure out how to do a vinegar based sauce with all the peppers that I had, and that's really where it started. I was not even intending on making a company. Me and my son had harvested all of the peppers, and we made a hot sauce, and it wound up being a green sauce. And we had kind of played with some ingredients, and we had thrown some cherries in there, and we thought it would be kind of fun to make it like a cherry limeade because we already had lime in there and we'd thrown some cherries in. So we played with it and we posted some pictures on Facebook, and everybody kind of went wild on it. And they were like, "Where can we get it? Can we get it? Can we get it?" And I'd only made like 5 bottles, I think. So that was like a November of 22, and by mid-January of 23, me and my son had started an LLC and gotten our food manufacturing license, and hit the ground running.
And that's awesome to hear. Definitely the standpoint from being able to do this and enjoy this time with your son as well. Creating sauces, having that back and forth, and really fine tuning it, bringing those two personalities, together to really put your thumbprint on these sauces. That's got to be an awesome experience.
It really was, and it is still. I mean, he's still half owner of the company, and he's still out there working. Every Sunday at the farmers markets where I work the Saturdays, and we started out working both Saturdays and Sundays together, and after about a year, it was like, okay, you take one, I'll take the other, so we each at least get a day off,
Yep.
once a week. But yeah, it really started, from a conversation, or from a series of conversations we'd had. He's always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My son's 21, by the way, and he's always wanted to start his own business and do his own thing. And I've done that my whole life. I've started and ran and closed, and I know the whole process from start to finish. So it was like, oh, well, why not take this opportunity to teach him the ins and outs of how to set up an LLC, how to set up business banking, how to get business credit, how to just do this, and we've just ran with it since.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very cool to hear. And, that's one thing, you hear it all the time over social media these days. It's like things your father didn't teach you. And it's a lot of what you were just
Yeah,
describing. It's like essentially how to stand on your own 2 feet and be able to not really rely on someone else to be that, to basically pick yourself up and make that business happen instead of waiting on someone else for the business. So,
yeah, and how to set it on a solid footing where even if you have something great, if you don't set it up right from the get-go, you can get yourself into trouble real fast.
yep,
Not filing your taxes, not accounting properly, not doing all the things that any business should be doing, but are often overlooked in the process of starting something new.
absolutely, absolutely. It's that old saying too, and it sounds like you've really got this down as well. But that old saying of, the jack of all trades is better than a master of one. You really have the business down because you know all the different facets and all the different areas and pitfalls from your own times and travels and trials and tribulations of starting business, and you're able to really expedite his learning curve along the way.
I've definitely closed more businesses, or almost as many businesses as I've started, but I definitely have the footing to know how at least the legal process and the foundation should be done. Um, I started out, and Poor Vida started out as a music production company, actually as a record label, and then music production, and then we went into event production. And so Poor Vida has been around since 2006, and it was a partnership, back then, and we expanded and we brought in more partners, and we put out records. We went on tour. We brought 4 or 5 artists, on a nationwide tour. We threw shows in Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, New Orleans, you know, all over the place. And I mean, that was a successful run. It ran for 2006. I think we shut down the music side of Poor Vida in 2014, 2015, something like that. Um, but when this opportunity came around to start up a hot sauce, I still own the domain. I still owned the all the intellectual property of Poor Vida. So it just made sense. Why not take advantage and why not roll it into to a new project?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the idea of being able to, have you're essentially establishing kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, a heritage to your hot sauce company, which is pretty cool to think of. There's a lot of, a lot of chili heads as a whole are, they're heavy into whether they're just listening to music or, from what I've gathered, there's a lot that actually also play, whether they're, just doing it for their own joy, or maybe that was a past, path for them. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. It definitely is very cool to be able to share that and show that with others. You had mentioned having some local artists here. So is that typically who you worked with, or did you work with a lot of other artists across the country?
Well, we worked with people all over the country, but when we started Por Vida, it was basically on the bones of an earlier group that we were in, which was Dirty Alien Project, which I'm wearing a shirt of that I just recently made. Um, Dirty Alien Project was a hip hop collective. It was 4 producers, all of us from DFW, and 4 MCs. And out of that, we ran that from 2004 or 5 until 2006. And out of that came Poor Vida, which started out as a record label. And we put out our first album in 2006, second album in 2008. We had a few more projects in the works. We did a tour in 2010. Um, but one begat the other. We started as a group, we turned into a record label, and it just kept progressing from there. We turned into an event production company for a good long while there, and there's a bunch of stuff on YouTube. If you search Poor Vida, or especially Poor Vida Dallas, you'll find a bunch of big events that we did. Um, but the artists that are in the mixtape series now for Poor Vida Hot Sauce are the artists that I took on tour in 2010 as Poor Vida. So when we went on tour, I took Goat, Grades of Absolute Truth, Jackrabbit James, MC Astro, and Kilo Artifact, and then it was myself and DJ Trek. And DJ Trek was who actually started the Poor Vida name. This was originally his baby. I came on shortly after, and then we expanded from there. But the 6 of us went on tour in 2010, and we did 16 cities, I want to say, over 10 weeks. From Texas to the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so these artists, the mixtape artists, other than System, System is probably he's my best friend since childhood, and he's a drum and bass DJ. The other 5 guys, and those 5 that are in the mixtape, the OG mixtape, those are the guys we took on tour back in 2010.
Very cool. So, I guess to tie that back in, you had mentioned it as well. So you have a hot sauce dedicated towards each artist. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what I did when when we launched initially launched with the cherry limeade, and we very quickly made the other two, which are the original sauces: cherry limeade, pomegranate ghost, and tropical Thai. And we did basically a low heat, medium heat, high heat. But within a couple, and not even a couple of months, within a month, um, we had talked about doing signature sauces for these local musicians. And so I reached out to these guys who I'd already worked with, and I've always, always been friends with and always been in contact with, and pitched the idea of doing licensed products. So basically, I pay them a licensing fee for every bottle I sell,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they also buy their signature sauces from me at wholesale, and they sell them on their merch table. So right alongside their T-shirts and their CDs and thumb drives or whatever they're selling at their shows,
Yeah.
they have hot sauce as a product on their merch table that they get at wholesale from me, and then I also pay them on top of it. For every bottle I sell at the farmers market, they get a little piece of it as well.
That's super
So
cool.
supporting local music, and kind of what I've been doing for 20 years now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I've seen. I was trying to recall uh, who it was, both the artist and slash. Well, I guess I don't remember. It was more artist driven, but at it was a metal concert that they actually had hot sauce on the table as well with their merch,
Yeah.
and
Well, you
so
you interviewed Lauren. Lauren's hardcore hot sauce. He's real big into the metal scene down in Houston.
yep, yep. That's what we were having a good time talking about that. Also, um, uh, who else? Headstone hot sauce. We were talking a lot about metal as well. So
Okay.
no, it's. I mean, there's a very cool crossover there, and to that point, what we talked on both of those episodes as well is typically chili heads are like the at the end of the day thrill seekers, going for that endorphin dump,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it kind of aligns pretty well with that type of music as a whole. Or also a lot of the electronic music is kind of in that same niche because you have a lot of the loud bass that's slapping and everything that's kind of coming through. It's not very
Yeah,
soft
well,
and
yeah,
subtle. And
especially with drum and bass, which is kind of the specific niche of EDM that I'm into. Drum and bass is definitely the heavy metal of EDM.
yep.
There's a huge crossover between it. I started out in heavy metal bands. That's what I was doing in high school, was in heavy industrial bands, heavy metal bands. Long before I was into drum and bass, and then which segued into hip hop kind of organically. Being an electronic music producer, or trying to be an electronic music producer, segued into being a hip hop producer pretty easily.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that being a nice, easy crossover. But okay, okay. So you have the mixtape line, both the remixed and the OGs that are out there. You had mentioned you started out with salsa. I know you also have some salsas on your website. I guess walk us through that now. Your
Sure.
approach on salsa. Now there's some different areas of salsa thought process. There's those that like that restaurant style, that's smaller, very fine, almost salsa, and then there's the chunky side.
That's
Where do you like to
Restaurant
lie?
style is definitely me. Restaurant style is my jam for sure. Um, and like I said, I've always made salsa. The salsa that I make for Poor Vida now is not my original recipe. My original recipe. So kind of a segue here. When we started the company and we decided to go legit, which was pretty much all at once. We went to a commercial kitchen, which is here in Carrollton, and that commercial kitchen that we decided to partner with is a vegan kitchen.
Okay.
And so they don't allow anything to be made in their kitchen that's not 100% vegan. Um, and my original salsa recipe was not vegan because I was using chicken stock.
Ah,
And that's kind of a secret ingredient you'll find a lot in restaurant style hot sauces in a lot of places. Um, so I had to figure out a way to reverse engineer around that and make a vegan salsa. So that's what I wound up with. With my first one, my habanero onion, was my first non or my first fully vegan salsa, and then we had to do a green salsa.
yeah.
And my main point of difference in my green is it's a tomatillo based salsa, but I put some ghost pepper in there, so it's a super hot verde, and I also put some kiwi in there, and
Ooh,
that kiwi really sets it off. It's not a lot of kiwi, but it's enough to provide some sweetness to that typically kind of bitter verde. It I think it's exceptional, and it's gone over well.
very nice. No, that's exciting to hear. So like, by no stretch am I vegan, but I do. I have had times, and I do schedule days where I go basically meatless for that day, and it'll just be either veggies or fruits or a mixture of both. And
Sure,
it's just
sure.
to kind of like rinse and repeat. Plus, I like to do a lot of fasting as a whole. I like to do long fasts, short fasts. Doesn't really matter. I typically am one that period. Well, more than not, I'm skipping breakfast. We'll put it that way. That's kind of been my
Yeah,
whole life.
I'm pretty much permanently on a 16/8. I don't eat breakfast, so I only eat from 2 1 to 9.
Hmm.
And that's I mean that I just kind of found myself in that. I didn't choose to do that. That's just really where I'm at.
Yep.
And I'm not vegan by any means. I love to smoke a brisket. Like
Yep.
that's one of I have a great brisket dry rub that I make. That's got some ghost pepper powder in it. It's amazing. But I also find myself like when I make curries,
Hmm.
half the time I'll find myself not using a meat based protein. I'll just
Yep.
do a chickpea and lentils, and like it's great.
Yeah.
I don't do it intentionally, but I find myself in the same position.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you say that about curries because that is exactly what I. So I will always order a green curry, and whenever they're like, okay, well, what protein? I'm like, no, 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 just give me extra veggies. Like, give me because the green
Yeah.
curry comes with the eggplant and all the other stuff. I'm like, just load it up
Yeah,
with
yeah,
even
yeah. A
more.
green curry or a yellow curry, but both
Yep,
don't need a meat.
yep,
Like those are absolutely excellent veggie
yep.
only.
But my caveat, and this is the Thai place that's right down the road from me, knows me far too well because they know I'm the only crazy person that orders, and apparently they're the only one that they allow to go over five. But I'm like, please give me a green curry and do not stop adding pepper flakes. The second you can stop is once it looks like a red curry. Once it looks like that, then we're good. Pull it off, and then I'll add my own stuff at home. So
So I'm in Carrollton, which is K Town of DFW, but there is a Thai place down the street from me that I've made good friends with the owner, and he does his dishes 0 to 10. You can order your spiciness 0 to 10, and 10 he tries to talk everybody out of.
yep,
But he buys a lot of he comes to the markets and buys sauces for me. We're on the same page, so I typically when I talk to him, he knows exactly who I am as soon as I call.
yep.
I'll order an 8 because if I say a 10, he's gonna punish me.
Hmm. Hey, well, that I would be more inclined, and I think honestly, I think the guy that runs the Thai restaurant there, I think he's tried in the past, but I just still just get it down. I'm like, okay, this is fine. So he now
Thai
I just
hot.
like whatever.
There you go.
Um, but no, okay. So you just touched on that as well. I was going to point out the fact that you also have some rubs, some different seasonings as well going on. So I guess what is your overall inspiration, your thought process while you're going through the creation of all these different products?
Yeah. It all happened really fast. So the initial three we talked about already,
Hmm.
and then the mixtape series we talked about. Other than that last one, which is my buddy Ryan DJ Systems Scorpion Basil, which has actually turned into one of my. It's probably in the top three sellers. It's another extremely hot. It's Thai chilies and scorpion peppers with a little bit of basil. It goes great on pizza. So beyond those initial nine, so I started with nine hot sauces. Like within the first 4 months of having one, I had nine, and then we quickly added the salsas because I already had a background in that. One of the very early day markets that I had signed up to do Underground Market, which was Lower Greenville, which is where I used to live. It was my old stomping grounds. And Cole from fucking Hot Sauce, that's like his established market. That's his grounds.
Yep.
And for some reason they let me in there, and we did a couple of dates there, and I met him very early on, within the first 2 or 3 months of me doing any markets. And we went back and forth, and I tried his stuff, and he tried my stuff. And one of the early nuggets of wisdom that I got from Cole was, there's some days that your dry rubs are gonna vastly outsell your hot sauces because it's a whole different market.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that will buy a seasoning or a spice that won't even taste the hot sauce. And I've always made my own dry rubs, but I never even thought about that being a product.
Hmm.
And so, after hearing that from him, and he was a hot sauce guy, but he had some dry rubs, and him telling me that, some days this is going to be the better thing. I was like, yeah, we got to do this.
Yep.
And that's basically the same thing that happened with our simple syrup. So not from Cole, but from being at the farmers markets and seeing that the people who were killing it every week in and out at the farmers markets were the people who had consumable products. And a hot sauce is, it's consumable, but it's like nobody's buying a new bottle every week.
Yeah.
And we'd already started spacing ourselves out, so we only hit a market every other week at best. And we were spacing ourselves out all over the city. But the people who were killing it were like the bread people, like the people who bake 200 loaves and then come to the market and sell all 200 loaves and go home early.
Hmm.
So we decided to try and figure that out. Like, what can we do? What can we make that's gonna, people are gonna buy and consume on site and be done with it, and they're just
Yep.
waiting for us next week. And what we came up with was spicy lemonade. And so the very first thing we did, I think it was the middle of summer, we went and bought a bunch of prickly pear from the green grocer and came up with a prickly pear jalapeno lemonade, and we started selling that. And 2 or 3 weeks into the farmers market of selling that, like we're selling it for $5 a cup, and we're just killing it. Like we're almost doing better than we were doing with hot sauce. uh, and we were like, okay, so this is great. Like this gets us through the slumps, but
Yep.
how do we package this? And so we figured out, let's package the syrup. Let's make a simple syrup of prickly pear jalapeno simple syrup that you can then just easily throw in an equal part of lemon juice and water and make a lemonade. So it,
Yep.
it simplified our process of making the lemonade, but it also made a packageable product. And then, I'd never do one. Anything I do, there's always got to be at least a different version of it. There's got to be at least one other flavor or one other size. Or I'm a big believer in that. That's my day job is packaged, you know, liquids in a bottle. That's kind of what I do. And you always have to have an alternative.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll definitely say one of my favorite things, and I've said it numerous times, is a spicy lemonade. I don't care if it brings a ton of heat or not. There's something about pepper and lemon and the way it just comes together. It is a beautiful
I'm
mixture in
telling
a
you,
glass.
You've got a jar of that prickly pear jalapeno. Actually, no, I don't think. I think I gave you the strawberry mint habanero syrup. So you've got one there for future review.
Yep, yep. I was just looking off to the side at it. Yeah, I have that one there, and I will be gladly tearing into that. From a lemonade standpoint, absolutely happening. I'm gonna also mix it in with some green tea. I've done that before with some spicy additives, whether that be tincture or whatnot. But yeah, to that
That
point.
strawberry mint habanero. That's what you've been seeing me lift up and stream here. This is an old fashioned with strawberry mint habanero syrup. But at the markets, I typically make a limeade with it. So
Ooh,
one
nice.
part of the strawberry mint habanero syrup, one part lime juice, 3 parts water, makes a killer limeade, and
Oh,
it's
very
got a little
nice.
kick to it.
Okay, okay. I like that. Well, you had mentioned it too, the idea of the on-site consumables being able to be a driver for you, having a differentiating product being a driver for you. Just, as you were saying that and me thinking through, there was literally only one person at Zest Fest that I can recall. And it was this little girl standing off in the corner, probably one of the worst possible booths to have. And her thing was basically a jalapeno additive that you can basically make a very fast margarita just using a little splash of that and spice it up. And I'm just like, she needed to be in a better place because she's so far. She was literally one of the last booths
Yeah,
in the whole entire thing. By the time you got over there, you're just like, you see all the stuff that isn't hot sauce and isn't a part. They're there as vendors, but they're not really a part of what you're there for. And man, I'll be honest, I almost passed her up, but it was a very unique product. And then to see at North Texas Hot Sauce Fest, to see you out there with your syrups, I was just like, okay, so this is now becoming a little bit
yeah.
more.
There's more to the world of spice than just hot sauce. Like,
Yep.
I mean, I like spicy coffee.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I do too.
that's not a thing a lot of people really even think about. But like, I like spice in just about everything, at least a little bit.
Hmm.
A little bit of kick. Even the prickly pear jalapeno syrup that I make is not very hot. Jalapenos are not hot anymore. They haven't been for 10 years, and I even then I still only use a little bit. But you get that little tingle in the back of the throat. Like, I like a little bit of spice to everything.
Yep. No, absolutely. I like to add spice to, so I mix up my own salad dressings at home. Oftentimes, what becomes the vessel of my next inspiration for a salad dressing is once a bottle is done, you know how you can't always get every single
Yeah,
drop
yeah, yeah,
out.
yeah.
That becomes the vessel for the next base of a salad dressing. There we go.
Hey,
Using the
throw a
hot
little
sauce.
olive oil in that bottle and shake it up, and you got a
Absolutely.
vinaigrette.
Absolutely. So I repurpose in that manner. But yeah, no, definitely right there with you with the whole idea of spicing up coffee. I like to spice up my desserts. Anything and everything is going to get some kind of love, one way or another with some spicy products. So
Yeah. One thing I have not dived into is the dessert side of it, and I still have a bottle of Clown's spicy chocolate syrup, which like I haven't really dived into it because I don't think I could top that. Like, I use that on everything dessert.
hmm Yeah, no, I've done it with ice cream sundaes. I've done it with probably one of my favorites is actually with Clowns on Fire for the swear words 1 year anniversary marker. We had some fudgy brownies and put that on top of it, and oh my gosh, it was
Nice.
so good, so good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I don't know that I want to even try and top it. Like, I love that so much. Like, I'm a let them do their thing. They've got it.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean definitely makes sense, and at the same time too, not saying that this is the case for you, but just in general, I've mentioned this before. It's like if your heart and your passion isn't behind a said product and you were just simply out there to make it just to make it, it's not gonna turn out the same as if your heart and soul and passion and drive is actually behind it. Um, it's
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's
No, I've got
remarkable.
a ridiculously large product line, and I can get where somebody might think that, but everything that I make, kind of it all came from a place of love and passion of something else before. Like I said, I started out making salsa, but that's not where I started the company. I started in hot sauce.
Hmm.
I started out with just 3 sauces, but then I was like, oh, how can I incorporate my musician friends into this? And
Yep.
wound up with 9. My dry rubs, like I've always been a huge, I've been huge into smoking, and I've always made my own dry rubs. And so I started with what's called my Black Phantasma. It's a black pepper based rub, which is amazing for beef. And I was like, oh well, we got to scale it. We got to do low to high heat. I actually this is nobody's seen this yet. I just rebranded all of my seasonings, so you
Very
can see
nice.
them on camera 2 over here. All those white labels, those are my dry rubs, which
Yep.
are just white label labels. And we have now printed brand new labels for those seasonings.
Very
So
nice.
those will be dropping this next season for the market season.
Very nice. I like that. There is a visual close up of currently what it is,
Yeah,
and
that one right there is the one to use if you're smoking a brisket. You salt your brisket the night before, wrap it in saran wrap, let that cure overnight. The next morning, hit it with that Black Phantasma, throw it in the smoker. You will wind up with a amazing bark, and it's got enough heat. It's ghost pepper, but with that 8, 10, 12 hour smoke, depending on how big your brisket is,
yep.
a lot of that heat comes off, but it still winds up just spicy enough, I think.
Very nice. You got me hungry just thinking about it. I'm already thinking about all the so I have applewood sitting in the garage waiting to go. Also have some plum tree that I have still chopped up ready
Nice.
to go. So I
I
may have to.
actually so my garden this season was terrible. I got like next to nothing when I should have gotten it, and all of my fruiting came after, and so I didn't harvest until mid-November, like, oh shit, probably the end of November. And I got very little off my plants this year.
Okay.
Um, but what I did was I took all of them, everything that I got, and I was like, let's, everybody else is doing fermenting. Let's try and figure that out. And so I bought a couple of ferment jars and went to town and fermented some reapers and some cayenne peppers and some jalapenos and some habaneros, all that I grew. And I made a fermented jerk sauce this year. And
Ooh.
everything that I grew wound up being about 9 jars. I got 9 8-ounce jars out of my entire harvest this year. So it's very limited edition, but
Yeah.
I fermented it with some allspice and some cinnamon and some nutmeg and green onion. And I've got a very limited edition jerk sauce that'll be out at the market starting in February.
Very cool. I'm interested to see how that turns out. Um, Fermented jerk sauce sounds phenomenal. It also sounds like it brings in a nice different body and depth to the traditional jerk sauce. So definitely like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've made a few jerk seasonings in my past, long before hot sauce. I've never made a sauce. I've always just done a jerk dry rub, and so this kind of brings in what I've played with in the past, but it turned it into a sauce, and it used all the peppers that I had in my garden. So I was aiming for an extremely hot jerk sauce. It didn't wind up being after the ferment. I think that ferment killed a lot of, because There was like 16 Reaper peppers in there, and I thought it was going to be way hotter than it was. But I think that ferment killed it a little bit, and I think I didn't use a vinegar. This is my first non-vinegar sauce, um, but it came out great. It tastes delicious, but it's not as hot as I thought it was going to be. My
All
Reaper
right.
peppers themselves, when I ate them,
Mm-hmm.
knocked me. They knocked me down.
All right, all right. Well, that kind of feeds into what I was going to ask next. Is there a pepper that you tend to stick around that you feel a little bit more comfortable with, kind of like an everyday pepper?
My everyday is habanero. No questions asked. Like that's jalapeno doesn't cut it for me anymore, and Thai chilies or cayenne peppers are a little hit or miss. Uh, Habanero is my go-to. That's where I'm comfortable. Like I can just eat it and eat it and eat it.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's a good one because it's readily available, and
Yeah, yeah.
they're always pretty consistent. Obviously, you'll occasionally get one that's just not, just like any other pepper. There's bad ones out there at times, but yeah, no,
Yeah. Oh, and the opposite. You'll get one every once in a while that'll just light you up.
yep.
But they're fairly consistent these days. Jalapenos just don't cut it for me anymore. Most of what you can find in the grocery store doesn't cut it, but habanero is still a grocery store pepper that is consistent enough for me to be the spice of my life.
Yep. No, definitely agree. It's a very solid one, and obviously being in Texas and in the DFW area now, where there's HEBs slowly rolling in more consistently across the DFW.
Yeah,
There's a very nice selection of habaneros, at least from them. So having the reds and the chocolates and the yellows and the oranges all in the same box it's fun. Get a nice
it is.
variety.
And I like I said, I live in Carrollton, so I live right down the street from the Asian grocery store, and they always have a nice selection of habaneros and Thai chilies as well. That's kind of what got me into using Thai chilies. Is they always have greens and reds ready to go, as well as the dried ones.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and they're so tasty too. They're a great snacking
I
pepper as
love a
well.
Thai. Oh yeah.
Well, I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll go ahead and jump on over to the game. It's definitely one that everyone likes to know. Do you have obviously you have the label change coming out on your spice blend, but do you have any new products in the works? I mean, you mentioned the jerk sauce. Is that what you have working right now?
Yeah, so the jerk sauce is going to be a very limited edition, and it's going to be available labeled by the first market, which for me is February. I want to say it's 15th. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it's limited edition. But if it does well, I obviously documented my recipe, and while it won't come from my garden like this first batch did, I can certainly get the peppers and make a new round of it.
Very nice.
It's a green jerk sauce, so that's not a very common jerk. So you see Jamaican greens and you see jerk sauces. Jerk sauces are typically brown. They use a lot of browning sauce or brown sugar.
Mhm.
This one is not a super sweet sauce, and it is very fresh and very green. I should have brought one in here, but I didn't. Um, so if it goes over well, then I'll definitely probably launch that as a new product. Um, for right now, the new thing is going to be launching these seasonings in their new packaging. That's going to be the launch for 2025.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and kick it on over to the game.
All right, let's go.
All right, so here we go. We have a very fun game. This is the five. Now, what is unique and fun about the five is it comes in 2 rounds. So, for all of those that this is your first time seeing the five, I'll go ahead and explain this here. There's going to be 5 different images that I show you, and you have to select. Each one will be shown one at a time. You have the choice to select and put it in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then you're really assigning what 1 means and what 5 means. 5 could be the best for you, or 1 could be the best to you. Ultimately, it is all up to you on how you categorize this, and we'll occasionally talk about your selection choice, etc., as we go.
All right.
All right, so first up, we have, boom. This is just to represent nature as a whole. Just like,
All right.
whether
Nature
it's,
as a whole. Nature
yeah.
as a whole is going to go in a 3.
All right. I like it. And we will get that there. Next up, we have, well, being in the studio.
Oh, we're going to have to put that in number 1.
All right. Very solid choice. I like it. Next, we have being in the kitchen. So the commercial kitchen, whipping up some sauce.
All right. That's work, but it is my thing. So that's going to go in at number 2.
All right.
And I'll probably screw myself on 4 and 5, but
well, that's kind of the fun of this, is really kind of seeing what goes
regretting
on.
your choices.
Yeah, the regret, learning about the regret, and really talking it through afterwards. But here we go. Festivals. So being at a hot sauce festival, being at a farmer's market.
All right. So if it's a hot sauce festival, it's going to go in at 4. If it's kind of hard for me to see. If
It's a hot
if we're
sauce.
talking it's a hot sauce festival, then we're going to put that at a 4.
All right.
If we were talking about a music festival, I've kind of aged out of that gap, and that would have to go at a 5.
Well, I think you made a very smart choice then, because concert is the very last one, which is number 5.
Listen,
And
I was a live audio engineer long before I was a studio engineer, and I love live music. But if I'm not getting paid to work it, I'm not there.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Not anymore.
Hey, I think that the selection choice was good. Is there any that you would change now, seeing everything placed how it is?
No, actually, I think that was a solid lineup there.
All right. I like it.
That was yeah, where I choose to be, in order of where I choose to be.
All right. Well, sounds like that was a winner there. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the next one. All right. Here we go. Round number 2. Same game, but we have different topics. So,
All right.
up first, we have A Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, we're doing hip hop here. All right. ATCQ is gonna go in number 2.
Number 2. All right. I
I'm
like it.
saving room for number 1. We'll see
You
if you
know,
got it.
this, I will say, while there may be some of these that are in certain people's top 10, we'll put it that way, I deliberately tried to avoid the very common go-to individuals or whatever.
I
So
mean, if you're talking about the very common go-to individuals in hip hop, they're probably not going to be in my top 5. One, because I'm old, and I love hip hop, but I'm a very backpack hip hop kind of guy. I like the underground. That's initially what Poor Vida was meant to represent, was poor life, which was, our motto when we were a record label, was from the underground up. We were the poor broke kids, rapping in the skate parks. We were, not that I was ever rapping, I was making the beats, but
No, I get it. I get it. I like it. Well, then most of this should align with that. Then, here we have Outcast,
Whew. All right, Outcast number 3.
number 3. All right, all right. Up next, we have Ghetto Boys.
Phew, you're shooting me here. I'm gonna reverse this after we're done here. Ghetto Boys is gonna be number 4.
All right. Yep. There might have been some that were just deliberately staged till later. NWA.
NWA in this list is gonna have to go 5.
All right. Let's see if that all paid off and that number 1 is truly a number 1 for you. Wu-Tang.
Yep. No, that one.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. Now, you mentioned there's going to be some that would switch around.
All right.
Who would you have moved?
2 and 3, I probably would have swapped. I mean, 2 is super nostalgic for me, but overall, Outcast, I think probably bumps them out as far as what I would jam on a regular basis throughout my life. So 2 and 3 would swap. Ghetto Boys and NWA would probably swap. And, as far as what I would still jam to this day, like Ghetto Boys has a spot, because like me in high school, like that was the jam, even more than NWA, because NWA at the point where I was rocking hip hop in high school, they had the one album out that came. I don't even know if it came after or if I just found out about it after. I don't really know the timeline on that. NWA versus Ghetto Boys. Who had the first album that was
I believe it was Ghetto
chart
Boys.
topper?
Oh, chart topper. I can't spout that right off the top of my head.
Yeah. I would probably swap 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in this lineup. Wu-Tang remains at number 1.
All right. A lot of love there for that. And ultimately, I started assembling this list, and while Wu-Tang really isn't quite as early onto the scene as say 2, 4, and 5, they were still on early enough that it was not something too new. So that's why I had to throw Outkast in the mix.
They were pretty close to both of those, but not as far as a commercial release.
Yes, yeah,
sure,
yeah. Which really, it was one of those things. Well, really, with a lot of these groups as a whole, really artists as a whole. One of the cool and crazy things is, it's a grind. You're a lot of time commitment, a lot of passion really poured out in what they're doing and how they're doing it, and really staying true to it. But from the moment that things catch, one of the cool things is being able to not only love and appreciate what they're doing then when it really caught your attention, but then finding out, hey, how did they get to where they're at now, and really finding all those other songs and everything else going out.
Yeah, what's the history that brought them there? Yeah,
Yep.
that's a huge part of it.
Yep. And it's a lot of fun too to dive into that and just watch the growth, listen to the growth of the overall group or artist in general. So
yeah.
All right. Well, here's the fun part where we get to dive into a nugget of knowledge. So this would be a tip that you would share with somebody to avoid a pitfall, to avoid a struggle that you faced early on, or maybe somewhat recent that you would advise someone to dodge and stay clear of.
If we're talking specifically hot sauce, the laws are very different depending on your state. There's a lot of law that comes in on the federal side, but as far as what you can do and get away with in your state And I say get away with, that's not really what I mean, but it is kind of what I mean. Like Texas is very lax. Um, but that doesn't mean there's no rules and there's no restrictions. And we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money in our first couple of years ramping this up, getting our process authority and doing the schooling that's required. Like we got our food manufacturer's license within our first couple of months, but it took me a year to get my certificate from University of Tennessee and to get my process authority, which just now is coming through for my first 3 products. But do it right. Do it right from the get go. Research and one of the very early things that I did that I wish I hadn't was buying UPCs off of Amazon. Like you don't even realize how much that comes back to be a pain in the butt later when you go to register your products with the FDA and you're using a UPC that's you just randomly bought, because that'll get you on Amazon, that'll get you whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
But not even that, like not even necessarily that story, but research, like figure out what it's actually going to take and figure out like what the steps are going to be to get you there. Because if you just fly by the seat of your pants, you're going to wind up having to correct more things than you even need to. Like
Yep.
you were doing most of the things right and you just missed this little thing, and now you have to backtrack 10 steps. Like figure it out from the get-go.
Yep. Very well said. Very well said. All right. Well, here's the fun part where you get to put someone on the hot seat. This is someone that you think would make a great guest for the show.
Like I said when we were talking earlier, I think you've interviewed almost everybody I know from the hot sauce manufacturer world. But I think Melissa from For the Love of Hot Sauce would be a great interviewee, and she knows a lot of the people you've already interviewed. But she's somebody that's slightly outside of this manufacturer world who still has that in, and I think she'd be great.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for that nomination. And Melissa, I'll be reaching out to schedule a time to have you on the podcast. Now, this last thing is really, do you have anything else you want to share with anyone? Where can they find you and how can they find you?
Poorvida.com, POORVIDA.com. All of my socials are Poor Vida Hot Sauce. Aside from our YouTube, which is just at Poor Vida. If you want to research the history or see the history of Poor Vida from the get-go, YouTube is probably the best place to go, because you can see videos all the way back to 2006, 2007 of stuff we've done. We also used to put out videos for Red Bull and a bunch of other people way back in the day. So you can kind of see the history of our evolution. But for today's hot sauce, poorvita.com is the place to visit and the place to stay up to date. Sign up for our newsletter.
All right. Hey, Colin, thank you so much for being on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. Still so much more we can dive into, and still so many more things that we can obviously nerd out on that I know we both share. So would love to have you back on.
Yeah, man, hit me up. Let's do this again. Let's nerd out.
All right. Thank you. Colin, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you want to keep up with Poor Vida, I'll have the direct links for everywhere that you can follow Poor Vida, as well as the main link to the website, so you can check out, the history of Poor Vida, check out the merch, check out the different sauces, dry rubs, salsas that are available, and dive on in with all of those. But hey, don't forget, new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday night. I couldn't do this without y'all. Thank you so much, Swear Nation, for being a part of this and helping grow the channel. Share this out with other like-minded chili heads that are, whether they're curious about the world of spice and they really want to figure things out, or they've been immersed in it and they want to continue to learn about different sauce companies and people that are out there in the game, whether that be growers, legends, etc. This is the place for it. This is where you're going to find everything to do from the world of hot. Quick shout out to our sponsors, podvision.io and webdx.one. Man, highly recommend checking out Podvision. If you are looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you hit a bump in the road, trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io. Episode number 69 is in the books. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.